going to go ahead and go there. It's also not what the Christian rapper Bizzle saying, because he used Revelation 2:9 against the Jewish people in a recent song of his called Bamboozled, and became apparently so irritated that I criticized him on it that he blocked me on Instagram and tried to have the video taken down off YouTube. But he's wrong about Revelation 2:9 as much as I respect the rest of his ministry. Let me stop there. Can we show the post that Bizzle had posted that he tried to prove this point via another way? Do you have the one with the Egyptian president, Abdel Nasser, or no?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, because since we've just brought that up, I'm going to briefly show it, because here's what I want to show, David. I want to show that this idea that the Jewish people are frauds religiously and ethnically, in the way that kind of anti-Semitic tropes would have you believe, this idea, sometimes people try to prove it via other means. Mm-hmm. And here's an old post. Now, thankfully, Bizzle has taken this down once I asked him about it.
Well, it's really stupid.
Yeah, so, can you read it? Tell me why you think it's stupid and read it. I'd love to hear
So he's sharing some sort of meme, and then he's got his comments. So the meme says, "They left black. The war for Israel." And I've got Time magazine there. And it says, when he was asked about peace in the Middle East, the late president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, stated, "The Jews will never be able to live here in peace because they left here black but came back white." And then the Bizzle, who wants to be the Dizzle, says, "Wow, came across this quote yesterday. There's a lot that has been hidden. I'll be breaking it down little by little in the future, but a quote like this can't be swept under the rug. A lot of prophecy relies on where Israel is, what they're doing, etc. Usually when someone predicts end times, they do it based on the fact that they believe Israel has already been gathered back into their land. So this is definitely interesting, to say the least." Now, the Vocab, I'm not familiar with everything going on here, but this seems so insanely stupid, right? Because
Why is that?
Because you're using something that was said by a leader of Egypt when he says Jews went out black and came back white. Notice, if you're saying this is some sort of evidence, you would have to assume that the president of Egypt, former president of Egypt, he knows about this conspiracy, right? Like, he knows that black people are the true Jews, and that, light-skinned Jews are imposters, and they have somehow been aware of this all this time, and he's now letting the cat out of the bag. Hey guys, we know that they were black, but now they're white, so they changed, and so he's somehow telling the truth. Like, why would you think this guy he's somehow in on that?
Yeah, and also, wouldn't he have to be like 3,500 years old to know this?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, okay, so there must be some conspiracy that has been successful for a long time, and somehow this guy is in it. Like, they have their own, like, book of secrets, right? Like, they have, like once you become president of Egypt, they hand the book to you, and you open the book, and it's got all these secrets in it. And one of the secrets is, oh, by the way, Jews were originally black.
Yeah, and check this out. That Time magazine cover is from September 26, 1955. It's on a Monday. And that Time magazine cover in its physical version used to be able to be found, and I believe it's still there. I'm just saying it's been a couple years since my research associate, whom you know who I'm talking about, but I won't say who he is, went down there and physically checked it out and went through it and looked at every single page, and guess what he did not find?
Didn't find that quote?
He didn't find it. So you know what we did, because everybody can't get a hold of the physical copy? We found the digital copy online. And I have the digital content from it, and I've read the entire, and it's not there. The quote does not exist. It's a fabrication. It's not there. And so it's a shame that anybody would share this, but especially, a Christian hip-hop artist, and he took it down, but he never told people it was wrong. And so if it's true that this is all true, then why do we need to rely on fake quotes from Abdel Nasser and Hitler? Because the movie that Kyrie shared also had a fake quote from Hitler, and I think we already covered that one. But why would we need to rely on these things if it's so true? And notice we're having to go kind of outside the Bible now to prove our Revelation 2:9 interpretation. We're saying, well, look, here's the evidence, but it's all literally made up. You don't need to make up stuff like this if it's true, but this is the kind of thing that happens in these realms, and it's a shame that you have Christians falling for it and believe in it. It's a real shame, and we need to do better, guys. It makes me wonder, is there something about us that makes us want to believe stuff like this? I mean, it's bad enough we're saying if you're religiously practicing Judaism, you've rejected Jesus as the Messiah, and if you rejecting the apostles as essentially a continuation of God's mouthpiece like the Old Testament prophets, and therefore then you reject the scriptures that are written by them, just like the prophets of old, the apostles and those associated with them in the new covenant documents. It's bad enough we're having to say, if you're rejecting all that, you are rejecting what the Old Testament promised. You know what I mean? I mean, it's good news, but I'm saying when you're focusing on the rejection of modern day Judaism of the Christ, it's tough. It's some hard conversations you got to have, right? It's not easy to talk about these things, but we have to tell the truth and be honest in love. But my goodness, it's worse when people go around and plus you are malicious ethnic imposters and we're the real Jews. It's like, first of all, it's not true, but second of all, it's an unneeded stumbling block in a conversation that Christians do need to have with people who practice Judaism, whether they be of Jewish descent or not. And really, the of Jewish descent element is really not very relevant to the modern Christian. At least it shouldn't be. I'm not saying their background doesn't matter, because God made you how you are, who you are, for a purpose, for a reason. But I'm saying that it's about having the faith after Abraham, who believed in God, it was counted to him for righteousness, versus some ethnic claim. And what does Titus 3:9 say? Hey man, that stuff's foolish. That stuff is genealogies that are just foolish controversies. 1 Timothy 1:12 says, don't get caught up in endless genealogies, because they promote speculation instead of knowledge. That's literally what these guys do. They hold charts all about endless genealogies. It's wrong. It's messed up. So anyways, it's just bring that out. But man, people are commenting about my background, I see. Go ahead though.
No, you can't pay attention. People say you can't pay attention to what everyone says. No, isn't it just amazing? Because it really reminds me of how Muslim apologists read the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, you've already decided what your position is, and you're going to search through it and pick out verses and then connect verses from different books and different contexts together in order to get something that you agree with, while missing the entire point, right? While missing the big picture. So you have the gospel, and so Jesus comes bringing the gospel of the kingdom of God, and then the apostles go out, and shocking enough to them, the Gentiles can be saved too. We all get grafted into the same tree. This is some amazing stuff about tearing down walls that have historically divided people based on class and gender and ethnicity and so on. And then these guys miss everything, and it's all about it's all about the genealogy. You got to have the genealogy, and all that other stuff, not really interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's just like when Muslims read the Bible, and they'll go and Muslims will go to Deuteronomy 18:18. Prophets coming after Moses. You see, this must be Muhammad. And they don't read 2 verses later, which completely rules out Muhammad as a prophet at all. And it's just I don't know, man. This is why you're pointing it out with like the Bizzle, and he'll share that. And then at some point he'll realize it's stupid, but he doesn't correct it. Meanwhile, a bunch of people have absorbed that completely ridiculous. I mean, that thing, as far as, the Egyptian president, I mean, that is like insanely idiotic. I mean, that is incredibly, like, how could anyone fall for that in a second? And yet, it'll still spread all over the place. And it's like a, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like urban legends. If people are familiar with urban legends, like, parents will still take their kids' candy that they gathered to a hospital to have it x-rayed because of stories about people putting razor blades in candy. It's never happened. There's no record of it ever happening. But as soon as someone started the story, it spread so rapidly that no one could do anything about it. The old story, if you're driving down a road in the dark and someone's driving towards you and their lights are off and you flash them their lights, it's actually a gang initiation and they have to kill whoever flashes the lights and so on. There's no record of that ever happening. A man walks into a bar and a lady says, let me give you a drink. And then he wakes up later in a tub of ice in a hotel room and there's a phone there and it turns out his kidney's been removed. It's never happened. There's no record of any of these things ever happening. Yet the stories, they spread so far, so fast, you can't stop them once they start. And you can correct them all you want. And you've got the majority of people still believe that these things have happened, even though it's total nonsense. And so, yeah, I guess if you just say it, I mean, vocab thing. I mean, at some point, Bizzle saw that meme. Never crossed his mind to think seriously about it. Never crossed his mind to investigate it or go to that magazine or anything like that. Just instantly shared because, it resonates with him somehow emotionally or something like that. And then instantly shares it. And that's how some of this stuff spreads, man. It's wild stuff.
Bad news. I just shared a video where Tony Ray, and I hosted on my channel from Hazakim, debunked that Abdul Nasser meme a number of years ago. And the reason why it's relevant in the Bizzle case with the Revelation 2:9 is because he just put out a song called Bamboozled, which actually has a good amount of truth in it, but it's muddied up by the parenthetical implication. So the song's called Bamboozled, and then in parentheses says Revelation 2:9, and then in the song he says these fake Jews, and he refers to them controlling the media, controlling Hollywood, and all that kind of stuff, all those tropes, in a song that actually does make some good points, but it's all messed up with this stuff. And it's a shame to see Christians going down that route, but they are, and that's why we got to get a handle on verses like Revelation 2:9 that are misused by these folks.
Yeah, and that's, you pointing out that, it has a lot of truth in it. That doesn't, it's like, when I hear that, it's like, well, that doesn't make it better. That actually makes it like more dangerous. Yeah. Like the job of a counterfeiter, someone who's making counterfeit, let's say $100 bills, the goal of a counterfeiter is not to make something that looks ridiculous and cartoonish. It's to make something that looks authentic. It has enough of the what it's supposed to look like to fool people. And so, yeah, if someone ever comes up to you with 100% lies, you don't need to worry about that guy. He's not going to get far. It's when someone's coming out with, 99.9% truth, but that 0.1% is really demonic evil stuff. And you say, oh, well, he's so right about all this other stuff. Let me accept that little 0.1% that's demonic nonsense. Those are the guys who end up, starting cults and so on. I consider Bizzle a brother from what I know of him, although I'm unclear on his stance on the Trinity, and I'm trying to get answers about that. But this anti-Semitism creeping into any form of true Christianity is a real problem. Let me just share one verse again, or commentary. You got something? Go ahead. I just wanted to ask you something real quick because I did want to clarify something. So you could. And you could believe that blacks and Hispanics in America are the true Jews and nevertheless have a correct understanding of the gospel, right? That would be possible. You could be a Christian and have a belief that you are the true Jews and be wrong about it and not be part of some cult, right? Would that be correct?
Yeah, I've met a few people who I think would actually meet those parameters. Yep.
So I was just thinking about that because you were saying, what you think about Bizzle. So Bizzle could be sharing that and think that he's true, and yet still have a correct understanding of other things.
Yeah. Okay. And it's gonna remain to be seen because some of this seems like stuff he's been toying with for a while. He's got some people in his camp who are into this. And the song just dropped. That's why this is relevant. When all this is going on, while IUIC is out there saying we're the real Jews and you guys are the fake Jews. Can you share that clip, that video? I think that'll be instructive because people can see here you have places where you have Christians agreeing with open cultists about their dislike or distrust or whatever for the Jewish people. That's a dangerous thing.